Hey yo, what's up? It's me, Bekka911. Today we're reading chapters 5 through 8 of La La Land. I may take a couple of breaks to take a sip of my Coke, but I'm reading for half an hour straight. And yeah. Slurp. He waited for things to change. He waited for the awkwardness, the anger. It never happened, and he left wondering if he really made a ripple at all. If a tree falls in a forest, and nobody's around to hear it, does it actually make a sound? He was the tree, falling and breaking and making a mess, but nobody really stopped to notice them. It's like nothing ever actually happened at all. Did he contribute to the group, or was he just a fundamental system Thomas needed to succeed? Prince was sure it was the second one, because if he really thought about it, he could remember a time where he'd helped the group at all. For a long time, oh my god, never mind. Sorry guys, I just had an idea, but then the idea broke. For a long time, he'd thought he'd have place among his friends, but he didn't. He had no place in a group where he did nothing. He could stand there, and he could banter, and he could argue, and he could add humor, but most of the time, he just made it worse. But maybe if he focused on Thomas, maybe if he stopped trying to be something he wasn't, maybe if he wouldn't screw up again, maybe he'd do something worthwhile. But everything I've done has made a difference, he argued intensely. Had it, though? Had he ever done anything that had created a ripple strong enough to actually change anything? Yes. No. I don't know. And he didn't. He didn't know. He wasn't sure. Roman couldn't figure out the tangle inside his chest, and while he was fumbling for a lead, it caught fire and burned away, leaving him with nothing but a hollow certainty that couldn't possibly be anything than the other side's at all. Hey, Roman? It was Virgil, rubbing the back of his neck sheepishly. Can we talk? Roman hesitated, torn between clearing the air between the two of them and focusing on his work. He must be soft, he mused as he sat on the bed and motioned for Virgil to sit on the chair in front of him. Of course. The darker trait stared at his hands for a long time before speaking. I know that we hit a rough patch a while ago. I was a major contributing factor to that. Logan was as well, Roman pointed out. Anxiety shrugged. I guess he was quite against me existing. I wonder why. It's easy to explain, Roman said. Logan relies on a solidly structured plan to function. Everything has to be exact and safe. It all has to make logical sense, and when factors like you don't fit into his ideal process, he lashes out because he thinks it's detrimental to Thomas's ability to move through life. Huh. Virgil stared at him for a long time before shaking the idea off. I guess that makes sense. I didn't mean to mess it all up. Of course not. It's not your fault. Logan's just a little uptight. They sat in silence for a while, Roman fighting something within himself, and Virgil just there. Why do you hate me? Virgil whispered finally. What did I do wrong? I don't hate you, Virgil. Honestly, I don't. Roman sucked in a deep breath. Look, for a very long time, I was the only side. I was Thomas's curiosity, creativity, his imagination. I helped him create games to play with his friends, and I helped him draw. I was his main function for a long time. It was just me. Then the others showed up, and gradually I just became a function to him. I had to give up control. and start sharing things that I hadn't done before. So, what about me? Virgil asked desperately. Huh? What did I do? Rowan bit his lip, hesitant. When you were created, Virgil, Thomas had just began to balance everything out. When we're working in harmony, and then you were created. Suddenly, every decision we made was second-guessed. Every idea I gave him would be broken down until it was nothing, because what if this happened? What if? What if? It tore me apart, and it was starting to hurt me. So I thought if I could bring you down as well, we'd find a balance again. I can't help it, Virgil muttered. It's literally who I am. And I know that, Virgil, but I don't work the way you do. I thrive on energy and compliments and ideas. I live for excitement and dreams, and when someone comes along and starts to pull that apart, it's jarring and it makes people start to second guess themselves. You doubted yourself? Roman winced at the blunt question because he's been dancing around the topic for as long as he could remember. There'd been a reason he'd been so up in arms about Derek and anxiety. He'd been there and done that. Now with depression, Princey physically couldn't get depressed. His job, his being wouldn't allow him. So he got a different dark side. He got doubt. It plagued him, haunted his every step. For a long time, Roman hadn't been able to shake it and through that period. Thomas started to fluctuate with his imagination. He got nightmares because Roman wasn't confident enough to give him a steady nothing. It was why Roman needed the attention, needed the compliments. It was why he was gullible with deceit. Because after all that time, he was still a darker shadow than the rest of him, and he couldn't get rid of it. I have to go, he said automatically, shutting down on himself. I have work to do. Roman, wait. Bye, Virgil. He didn't stick around long enough to hear the quiet laugh from the shadows. Just gonna take a quick sip of my Coke. Wonder how much the microphone picked that up. Chapter 6. Roman Sanders found the answer to his problems 3 days after the confirmation with Virgil. It came in the form of a snake, wrapped in the shadows in dark clothes and smiled that weren't quite real. My prince, Deceit drawled. I've been informed you're incredibly overworked. Roman sighed as he brushed past the slippery side. Not now. Deceit trailed him like a faithful dog, which was funny, Roman mused, because Deceit really was a reptile. Oh, Roman, Deceit cooed. I can help you. Save it. Deceit hummed as he followed Roman into the control room. The royal probably wasn't supposed to allow the other in, but honestly, who cared anymore? I didn't think an exceptional side like you could get overwhelmed. Deceit's smirk fell just a little when Roman snorted in dismissal. But my prince, surely you're capable of more. You know what? Roman said, turning around sharply. They tell me that I shouldn't listen to you. They tell me you're a poison. I've just been too weak to turn away because I need you to live. Roman, I am honored. I'm sure you are, Roman said dryly. Look, as a regal as I truly am, I don't need to Look, as regal as I truly am, I do need to concentrate to succeed. Your absence would be appreciated. Of course. While you're at it, see if you can get Wednesday Addams in here. I'll require his minor assistance. Deceit didn't bother to say anything as he slinked away. Roman smiled to himself when he sensed his distaste. He worked hard on his part, and Thomas's functioned fairly. He'd done more than his share, but something in him, some buried ancient part, wondered if it was enough. Wondered if he'd done it right. He tried to push the part away, but it heaved up until it encompassed his mind like a blanket, and it was all he could think. Hey. He jolted out of his dire thoughts. Virgil! He greeted breathlessly. Hi. The anxious trait shifted awkwardly. Deceit said you wanted me. I wasn't sure if he was lying. No, Prince breathed. He wasn't lying. I require your assistance. Virgil raised an eyebrow. With what? I have an idea, but I need your anxious energy for this to work properly. Rowan waited for the rejection, waited for the sneer. He tensed and he braced himself for the stinging words that he would hear, but anxiety simply put his hands in his pockets and said, I'm listening. Logan just had to try and ruin it. He argued back and forth with the sides, using illustrations and examples, and then Logan swept it and ruined it all with the boring plan. Prince was getting frustrated. Nobody was listening to him. Nobody cared about his opinion because he was just Roman. He was a dreamer. What could he possibly know about cold logic and serious topics? He was too busy living the dreams to live in the real world. And when Thomas played peacemaker between the two, Roman had never been so angry, because it wasn't fair that he'd been pulled back. Logan wasn't reined in. Just Roman. Just because he was passionate. He paced in his room that night, and he didn't go out to dinner. Time to slurp again. Chapter 7. Roman, why do you always doubt yourself? The question was innocent enough that Princey knew that Pat had meant well, but he hadn't slept well, hadn't eaten as much as he should have, and was already incredibly twitchy. The tension in his temples snapped and left behind a screeching, much like that of an old kettle. It was a wonder nobody else heard it. He laughed nervously, his head ringing. What are you talking about? Even to his own ears it sounded fake. I'm fine. The others watched him unblinkly, and something cold gripped the back of his neck. Roman, Virgil said, you told me about your doubt earlier. Roman wished his eyes were lasers so he could just fire them all at his counterpart. No, I didn't, he said. No, but it makes sense. Logan adjusted his glasses, and Roman seriously considered screaming in frustration. He wanted them to leave him alone about it. Ugh. Yeah. When Virgil's thoughts manifested, they appeared in the form of depression. Roman noticed the dark one flinch. Your thoughts corresponded into your separate side as such. I defeated doubt, though, Roman argued. And yeah, he just admitted that he'd had a brush with doubt, but honestly, what were they going to do? I'm great. Confidence all around. Not necessarily, Logan said. Shut up, Roman muttered childishly. Patton clapped his hands together and smiled. Roman braced himself. Oh, kiddo, Patton guessed. You don't need to doubt yourself. I don't. We love you, even with your faults. I don't have any faults. We helped Virgil through his tough time, Patton continued. We can help you through this. That was his breaking point. No, you can't, Prince exploded, running his hand through his hair. I'm not going through anything. I've beaten my doubt. I'm perfectly fine, Patton, and if you insist on telling me otherwise, then I may as well ignore you. before you end up persuading me that I'm not okay. I know myself, all right? I think I know whether or not I'm okay. A heavy silence draped over them all, and Roman felt his chest heave, barely contained sobs. He was fine. He knew he was fine. And the others? Were they trying to change that? The more he thought about it, the more he actually thought about it. It seemed likely. They'd always tried to turn it against him. Now they were trying to make him vulnerable too. I think I need to go, he breathed. Before he could sink down, though, there was a shaky exhale from the stairs. Virgil gave him a look that Roman couldn't bother interpreting. Dude, that was uncalled for. Your attitude wasn't called for when you decided to make all things about you. Hurt flickered deep into Virgil's eyes, but Roman didn't let himself feel guilty. There was a niggling feeling that they orchestrated this, that set him up, and now he was standing here, looking like the villain. Logan had claimed to be the bad guy. He reminded himself harshly, "You can't do the same thing." He always hated not being original. "Roman," Logan said, "is there something going on that we should be aware of?" "No." That was that. He wanted to sink out, but there was something holding him there. Something that wanted a reaction that he wasn't getting. "Roman?" "I know I'm not the best," he interrupted his host. I know that I'm not very personal. I don't ever want to let you down, but I'm finding it incredibly hard to let you down if you aren't lifting me up in the first place. You gotta give me a chance, guys." "You've had chances before." Virgil's voice was harsh, and Rowan fought his flinch. "Why should you be granted more?" "Because you were given more chances too," Rowan shot back. "You've had heaps. Why shouldn't I get the same?" "Because you were always better than me. You like to rub it in my face a lot. You've been better than me forever. You said that you didn't like the way... You said you didn't like to have to share. Is that what you want now? Do you want us gone so you can have full control again?" "Virgil!" Thomas scolded. Roman and Virgil stared each other down, neither willing to admit that the other was hurting. "I think we all need a break," Patton attempted. There was something frayed in his voice that brushed against an explosive nerve. Roman could feel his emotions rising. He needed to go before he tore down the rest of their little family. "Yeah," he said slowly. "I think we should take a breather." He sank down before anyone said anything else. Something shadowy followed him and hugged him tightly as he fought back the yell in utter pain as soon as he made it into his room. Gonna take a chug, choo-choo. Chugga, choo-choo. Chugga, choo-choo. Chugga, choo-choo. Continue reading with our last chapter, Chapter 8. Rowan makes a point to avoid the others for days after the confirmation, his breathing catching in his throat whenever he sees one of them walking towards him. Once he had seen Virgil, his throat had conjured an injured whistle, a low-keying sound that had his face flushing and his pulse racing. Virgil had looked upset when Prince had rushed away. It's understandable that he's awkward around them. He knows that his absolute certainty, but the bitter guilt curls in his stomach, and he almost gags on it. He hates that he can't face them, can't face his family. He feels like crying whenever he tries to see Thomas. He doesn't even know what he'd say, but anything has got to be better than the suffering silence that swells in his throat when he leaves his room. He despises his weakness more than he despises what he's turned into, and it rubs his heart raw every time he stops to think about maybe all of this could have been prevented. He could have done more. He could have controlled himself. And now the others know about his darkness, his own stain that had dyed him gray and dull and broken. The others know about the labels that Princey had burned under the layers of glamour and songs and performances and duchiness. His lips curl as he works away in Thomas's head, shaping and making and snarling furiously at himself as disgust worms its way into his mind. The creative energy he holds blackens and shrivels and he throws it away with a low growl. Then the tears come, shuddering sobs clawing their way past the void in his throat, a tumbling free. The imaginative energy around him curls into his palms, pressing against his skin. He wants it to burn, and he wants to burn with it, just to get away from the darkening mark around his heart. Maybe there isn't a heart left to darken because Roman was convinced that there is nothing left in his chest. Everything is devoured by aching, nothing that involves him in a guilty numb. He's created enough, he decides abruptly, scrubbing the tears away and shoving his shattered pieces back inside his chest. Thomas should be good for another video and probably some more. At least he's keeping up with this now. At least he's doing his job. You know what your moping reminds me of? Virgil asks from the bed as Roman rips open the bedroom door. The darker trait is sprawled on the Royal's bed, completely uncaring that he's intruding. Roman plays his eyes were invisibly puffy as he crosses his arm and raises his eyebrow regally. I assume you're going to tell me anyway? The Bo Burnham song, left brain, right brain. That's not the answer he was expecting. His arms drop to his side, and he snorts in vague amusement. Okay, Virgil, what do you want? Nothing. I don't particularly want to talk to you and listen to the slightly annoying tinge and self-loathing in your tone. It did that first, dude. I thought creativity meant you could create your own trend. That strikes a chord, and Roman holds back a wince, waiting for the anger, the indignation that's sure to follow. He doubts that he could hold himself together long enough to be angry anyway. Virgil, I'm tired. Just go away, please. It must be because he said please, because Virgil is gone before Roman could fully exhale. Sometimes he doubts that he was the cause of the hurt tears brimming in the counterpart's eyes. No, the ugly sheen wasn't him. Virgil had outgrown Roman's petty insults and pathetic attempts at batter and reconciliation. He settles on his bed, snapping his fingers to change into something comfier than his usual outfit. He sits up moments later, when nothing happens, and he's left his regular attire. He tries again, channeling his inner thoughts, furrows his eyebrows in concentration. Nothing happens. You can't do it, he hears. A breath of nothing careless his inner ear. You can't do it, Roman. Why can't you do it? I don't know, he wants to scream, but in his mouth is that goddamn silence he feels it eat away and eat at him, and he thinks that maybe it could just finish him off, because he can't live like this anymore. He dresses manually, slowly, carefully, afraid that he might accidentally rip off his own skin. He's wild like that, unpredictable. He is his own thunderstorm, raging and quiet and calm in his core. His mind is a tangle of thoughts, a mess of this, that, and oh God, he's thinking too much and really, really needs to sleep. If he figures out in that weirdly quiet moment that he is starved, well, nobody has to know. Oh, I forgot about that part. He's starved? That's actually a concept in the fanfic I'm reading right now. Well, was reading. It was a YouTube video kind of like this one. And Patton was being starved, and he passed out because of it, and that was cool. So anyway, that's the end of this video. I hope you guys still liked it. I'm just going to scroll down all the way because I can. Whee! So anyway, hope you guys enjoyed this. Please consider subscribing. We're almost to 15. Like 2 more subscribers. We could do it. PewDiePie could get 100 million. Yeah, 100 million. If PewDiePie could get 100 million subscribers, I could get 100. Just 100. That'd be great. So until next time, I love you, and dear best.